I did. I'm sorry. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 2021 Town of Sherman Preliminary Budget Workshop. Can we please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to take roll call. Councilman Galusha.
Here.
Councilwoman Harris. Supervisor Shepler.
Here.
Councilman Brown. Councilman Needham. Let the record show all present.
What I'd like to do this evening is go line by line in the preliminary budget of 2021. If we have any questions or any adjustments, this is why it takes 3 board members, not just one. And at the end, we'll have a vote, either to pass it or to not pass it.
So we're gonna vote on the total budget at the end.
We can this evening.
How are we gonna keep track of what changes are gonna be?
Well, we'll keep track here. I've asked Councilman Needham to work with me to keep track. I'll keep track, and we'll go forward from there.
I'll be keeping track also.
All right. We'll start out with the general fund revenues. Real property tax, interest, and penalties, $2,620.
You skipped the payment in lieu of taxes, and
I have a 0 there.
I realize that, but in the past, we've always received that. In 2019, we received over $3,000 from that. Is there a reason why we don't expect that this year?
Yes, I do believe I explained that earlier on. We are not getting, you know how this year we got the reimbursement from the insurance because we went to an insurance where the amount was less, and then we got it down. That, and there was $100 found in the tax collector's office. I don't imagine you'll find that again. There was $1, I believe, and 10 cents found in the closet here. And that's pretty much how it was, so, that is why it's at 0. Occupancy tax, $30,000. Non-property tax distribution, $350,000.
Before you go on past that one, I actually worked on some proposed revisions for the budget, and one of the things that we could do to close the gap on the excess levy that we have in our budget is to increase some of the revenues. And for the past several years, our sales tax has exceeded $400,000. It's been between $400,000 and $460,000. And, well, let me finish.
That's fine.
So far this year, we've taken in $423,000, and that's in the middle of a pandemic. So every dollar that we increase that revenue for now is a dollar less we have to raise in taxes. And under budgeting a revenue like that for no apparent reason just doesn't seem to make sense to me. I would prefer that we raise that to $400,000.
I would recommend that you go back and talk to the comptroller's office, and they'll tell you straight up that it is smarter to lowball your revenues rather than to overestimate, because if you come in overestimating them and you don't have the money, then there's an issue.
I understand.
Right
and
now,
appreciate
I
that.
want to correct something you said at the last meeting. I have a letter here from Rob Lynch. He sent out to all of the supervisors. We're not down 2%, we're down 4.5%. All right, I want to correct that. I didn't think 2% was accurate when you
Well,
mentioned.
that's what Mike Swan stated in the public, I believe it's in the Post-Star, an article in the Post-Star.
Well, this came out on 11/6 at 3:33 p.m. All right, and it's down, it says, as noted today, we have received 4.5% less in sales tax than in prior years.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so I want that corrected. So what are you trying to increase, Randy?
The sales tax to something that reflects more what we normally get. I understand under budgeting revenues so that you have that cushion come the end of the year. But when people are doing that, they're not trying to close a $206,000 gap like we are in our budget.
And you're not gonna close it by raising your revenues, that's gonna cause more of a
Actually,
discrepancy.
if you want to entertain it, I actually have a list of changes that we could, by modest increases in just a few revenues, by cutting a few things in our appropriations, and then if we have any fund balance, which is a question that's still on the table as far as I'm concerned. I've asked throughout the year what our fund balance is, I've never gotten the answer. And right now, I know that just in 2020, we have $73,000 in sales tax. Because we've taken in $423,000 and we only budgeted $350,000.
All right.
So that should be a fund balance right there. In 2019, I have no idea what our fund balance was at the end of that year. It's still not clear to me.
2019, nothing is clear, thank you.
Well, I understand that we're 11 months into a new year and we still don't know what our fund balance is for 2019. How is that possible? I mean, that should have been known within 2 months of the beginning of the year.
It should have been, but it wasn't for 2020.
Okay.
2020.
In the past, if you look at all of our budgets, up until the last couple of years, we always applied some amount of fund balance to the budget. Applying fund balance and changing the estimate on our sales tax revenue and a couple other things, reducing a few expenses by modest amounts, and you close that gap to an amount that, I mean, we could theoretically close it to zero, or have zero excess levy, but
It's not gonna happen, it can't happen. And
we're sitting
will
on,
be
if we're
wrong.
sitting on $73,000 fund balance for sales tax, and we increase our sales tax revenue by $50,000, you're up $123,000. That goes a long ways towards closing that
In
gap. Cut a
discussing,
few things out of the budget, and all of a sudden you're
in
there.
discussing with Mike Swan and Rob Lynch, they're not anticipating us to have an increase next year, all right?
I wouldn't suggest an increase.
Well, you're
I'm not
you're
suggesting an
recommending that
increase.
we increase the revenue, and I'm not suggesting.
I'm
we do.
suggesting
Does anybody else
$400,000.
in the board want to raise the revenues for the sales tax? Speak now, please.
Let Randy finish.
I asked a question, and I think it's fair.
Oh,
Doug, do you wish to raise the,
No.
Ed, do you wish to raise the tax
I'd like to study a little more on that myself.
on the revenue side of things?
What he's talking about. I'd like to see them figures.
If you would care to entertain it, I have a proposal here with some, just
Can I ask you why you didn't bother to bring it in before now? You do this
because I just
every
got
year.
it done just before the meeting, quite honestly. I mean, I worked on it all day, and
And I
I just printed it
appreciate
just
that.
a short time ago.
I appreciate
And-
that.
Do you want to get copies of it?
Absolutely. I've got
Yeah, I'll
copies
come
over
make
here.
copies.
No, I have copies of it here. I mean,
Oh.
well, let me just say this, before I do that, let me just go through what just my thing, and this, and I want you to
Why don't we
consider.
go line by line like we suggested in this, as we hit the line, then you speak about it at that point in time, okay?
That's the way you want to do it, sure.
I think that that's fair, and that way we're not bouncing all over with it. So town clerk's fees is $400 on the revenue, copy fees are $10, dog control fees are $100, vital statistic fees are $50, refuge and garbage charges are $1,400.
Of 14,000,
Thousand.
and
I
you
apologize.
could raise that because actually we've been getting more than $15,000 every year for the last few years, couple of years anyhow.
No,
I mean-
No,
no,
we have not.
no.
Well, in
This year we-
2019, we've got 15,106, and I think the year before that, I don't have that number right in front of me. But this year, we're already on track to exceed that.
we were down
So
the
for 2 years,
previous years before that. We just went up this year and last year because of the fact that the private trash went up on their rates.
so for 2 years, we've exceeded $15,000. That's my point. I mean, I'm not gonna argue over $1,000, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to pick every battle. I'm just saying that's the number I put in there.
Okay. Interest and earnings is zero, interest and reserve account is zero. Rent of real property, $100. Licenses, $300. Marriage licenses, $35. Fines and forfeits of bail is $800. Sale of surplus scrap. This is for the highway is $1,500. Unclassified revenues is $25. Interfund revenues is nothing. State aid, we no longer have state per capita aid. We have state aid mortgage taxes is $1,100, which is where it should be, I was told. Programs for the aging is $1,700. State aid youth, we're putting in a zero because there's nothing at this time. AIM-related payments is $21,996. Going down to town board, we're now going to be into the expenses. Town board, $12,784. Town board .4, $3,000. Town justice is $5,720. .12 is $5,600. The .2 for the justice is $1,500, and her .4 is $3,000. Supervisor, $10,800. .12 is $19,500. The .4 is $5,000. Director of Finance, $2,090. Page 3. Tax collectors, $2,184. .4 is $2,500. Assessor .1 is $1,100. .12 is $11,000, excuse me, and $11,000. .4 is $3,275. Town clerk, .1 is $19,200.
Do we have to raise that to make this, minimum salary?
We should.
Where's what to do what?
We should actually, in proposals like that here, I put in 2% pay raise for some employees, so we can talk about that.
So it's on there, when we discussing it? Okay.
Town clerk, .12 is $4,000, town clerk, .4 is $2,000, the attorney is $7,000, engineer is $15,000, elections is unchanged at $1,500, buildings, .1 is $10,000, .4 is $46,000, special items, unallocated insurances is $25,000, municipal association dues is $1,600, and contingency is $10,000. Dog control, .1 is $3,000, .2 is $100, .4 is $1,000. Register of vital statistics is $1,040. The laboratory, .4 is $2,200. The ambulance is unchanged at $50,000. The superintendent of highways, .1 is $50,000. Superintendent of highways, .2 is $1,200. Garage is $20,000. Street lighting, .4 is 1,000. Veteran services is unchanged to 250. Programs for the aged is, unchanged at 7,500. Tourism, there's also known as architects, is $30,000. Page 5. Youth programs, .4 is 1625. Historian, .4 is 50. Refuge and garbage, .1 is 25,600. .4 is 22,000. Cemeteries, .1 is 4,600. Cemeteries, .4 is 700. Home and community services personnel, 6,500. Employees benefits, this is the town side. State retirement is 15,000. Social security is 17,000. Workers' comp is 7,150. Unemployment insurance is 2,500. Disability insurance is 500. Medical insurance is 37,000. Highway, revenues, transportation services are 269,713. Sale of scrap is 500. State aid chips is 184,300. Highway fund expenses, general repair, .1, $278,648. General repairs, .4 is 50,000. Improvements capital outlay, .2 is 184,300. Bridges capital outlay, .2 is 5,000. Contractual, .4 is 5,000. Machinery equipment is $77,213. Contractual, .4 is 100,000. Brush and weed, personnel services is 5,600. Snow removal, personnel services, .1 is 37,000. Contractual, .4 is 125,500. Highway equipment and capital outlay equipment, .2 is 100,000. Employee benefits, state retirement, 57,000. Social security, $27,021. Unemployment insurance is 2,000. Disability insurance is 1,000. Medical insurance is 133,000. Workers' comp is $7,150.
It's 133 and not 133.
133,000. Did you want me to read off the summary pages or not? Did you want me to read the summary page? All right, the summary page. According to the current budget in front of you, the general fund appropriations is $547,768.
Excuse me. I did realize there's a math error on that. That 547,768 is actually 548,768. 548,768.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Did you do the math, Randy?
I went through the budget that you gave and I did it by hand and I also did it on a spreadsheet and every time it came up. Somebody should check it just to make sure I didn't punch a
I'll go
number in
through and
wrong.
check it again then.
But it's just the total is off and I'm not sure which.
I'll go through and double check it, thank you. Based on the figures at hand though, without double checking what Randy has to say, the revenues are $434,636. Re-raise in taxes is $113,132. The assessed value, $98,513, and you take out the $98,249. To be raised in taxes is $642,670, and a tax rate of 3.86. Fire appropriations are $80,000, to be raised in taxes are $80,908, and their tax rate is 0.47, totaling 5.01. Based on what's in front of us now, not including any changes. The tax rate from last year was 4.89, the tax rate for this year is 5.01. You take the 4.89 from the 5.01 and 0.12, and then you multiply, or you divide that 0.12 by the 4.89 from last year, and it comes up to 0.02453. You move the decimal point 2 places, and it's 2.45% increase in taxes.
2.45.
2.45, yes, I'm sorry. So you wanted to talk about which fund was it again, the non-property tax distribution?
So actually, if you would indulge me to just kind of explain what I'm thinking in general terms, and then I'll offer you, you can take a look at this. I have copies for you. So, I mean, fundamentally, I have a problem with the fact that we're sitting on $98,249 that when applied to this year's budget should result in a tax reduction, both in the amount of revenue we raise and in the tax rate. That should be a given. I mean, it just is. There's no way we should be facing a tax increase this year. I mean, our expenses did not go up that much, okay? So that's where the premise I'm starting from. And as I explained before, if we do some increases in our projected revenues, and we do some cuts in the appropriations, and everything that I changed from what you propose here is highlighted in here, although I did notice I missed a couple of things in my haste of doing it. So just look at it closely to make sure what I've done. And when I give you this, just consider it a rough draft, because I'm not saying that this is the final answer, that I have all the answers. I'm not suggesting that. This is what I'm proposing to close the gap and to reduce what we're proposing to raise in revenues. So to begin with, the workers.
Can we have a copy, please, so that we can view it?
I just want to explain what I've done before everybody starts getting, looking at it. So to begin with, the workers' comp, when you talk to Warren County Self-Insurance, you can get the actual number of what it is. We don't have to guess what it is. For Thurman, I don't have it on that. I took the number from self-insurance, and you can apportion that between highway and general fund, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a total of 21 employees in town, 7 of which work for highway and 14 are in general fund. So it's something close to that. We can adjust it, okay?
Yeah,
But it's not 50-50 is my point. So highway shouldn't be paying 50% of the workers' comp when they don't have 50% of the employees. So that's one thing that I did here. I also included the reserve levy as revenue for the highway, where you agreed that it should be. I did this, I ran the numbers 2 different ways, and I'm assuming we're gonna come up someplace in between these. I ran these assuming that we had no fund balance to apply to it, and then I ran it assuming that we had enough fund balance to cover the $206,000 excess levy that we're confronting. So if we did it assuming no fund balance, the amount that we would be raising in taxes would be $761,338. The excess levy at that number would be $131,507, and our tax rate would go down to $4.56. Now, if we have, and I'd like to know what the fund balance is, both last year and what we're currently projecting for this year, because if we have that, I mean, we already know that we have $73,000 in excess sales tax that we didn't know we had before. And if we use enough fund balance to close close that excess levy and actually make it zero, so we have to zero, we don't exceed the tax cap limit.
Well, the
Then-
tax cap limit is moot because we passed the tax cap override, so that's not.
No, it's only moot in the sense that you can now spend all the money. It still means you're gonna raise people's taxes. You're still raising that revenue. That's not a moot point. I mean, it doesn't give you unlimited carte blanche to just raise taxes as much as you
Never
want.
indicated it did, Randy.
Okay.
Never indicated it did.
But we're still $206,000 over the tax cap. Okay, so running the numbers the other way, assuming that we close that gap using an excess levy, and I'm not suggesting we have enough excess levy to do that, I'm just saying if we did, the total taxes we would be raising would be $629,831. The tax rate would go all the way down to $3.77. Now, the tax rate up until just 3 years ago was $4.07. We have $98,000 we're sitting on. I'm not suggesting we're gonna get it all the way back to that.
What is 2.45%?
2.45 is on top of the 16 to 17% increase in last year.
Last year is last year. This is this year, all right? Last year's taxes, you're not gonna erase.
Not doing it the way we're doing it, yes, I agree with that. So,
Again, Randy, let me just reiterate by saying to you, the way you're doing it is not wrong, but neither is the way I've approached it and presented it either.
so a couple other things that we don't have a handle on yet. I'm still waiting for the, Empire State Development to tell me the answer on white space. They have promised to get back to me on it.
It's gonna be a while out there. I've also spoken with them too, unfortunately.
Okay, so they have the contract, they have the extension, they're reviewing it, they promised me a conference call, hasn't happened yet. This budget doesn't account for white space, we could still be on the hook for it. One other thing that somebody brought to my attention, that in the past, we always had like $1,000 in our budget for a health officer.
For what?
For a health officer.
That is taken care of at the county level, and that is it's $1,500. It's split between
fair enough.
Warrensburg and Thurman, and we
Fair enough.
never take a dollar out of our budget for it.
So, having said that, that's what I started with, and I did include in this a 2% raise for all the general fund employees, except supervisor and town board, gave it to everybody else. There's a number in here for the highway crew, but I don't know what the actual number is based on, to tell you the truth. So that, I think I went with whatever was in the spreadsheet. So, just pass those real quick.
Randy, I thank you very much for the time that you put into this.
Two copies for you, and whoever wants to share these, I mean,
You have one? So the column all the way on the right are the numbers that I'm proposing, in case somebody else wants one.
Okay.
Some of them are based on actual numbers, like the workers' comp, that's an actual hard number. Warren County actually, it was about $16,000 and change was what workers' comp was gonna be. They had tax levy that they applied to at 15%, so it reduced it. And I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head. Health insurance, that's just based on a projection of what we've already done this year, what we've done in the past.
Again, Randy, by increasing your revenues, that is going to cause a problem.
The only revenue that increased significantly was the sales tax. The only other revenues, maybe on the highway side, I can't remember what those. The highway side revenues were, I believe, actual numbers.
Yeah, so are the general fund.
Well, no, sales tax is a projection, we're estimating that.
Based on information that has been given to us by the county, yes, that is correct. And I happen to go by what the county is willing to take and what they're anticipating.
So 4.5% less than what we normally get. We normally get,
That was this year, we got 4.5% less this year.
you wanna know?
They're anticipating a greater reduction.
I can tell you what it is for the last 5 years, I've got it right here.
I don't care about the last 5 years, I'm talking
Well-
about 2000 and 2021,
Right,
and I'm talking about information that I've gotten from the treasurer's office and
Yeah.
from the person who's doing the budget for the
and we've
county.
gotten as much as 460-some thousand in a year, within the last couple of years.
Yes, but we haven't been faced with a pandemic before, have we?
No, and in the face of a pandemic, we got $423,000. So, I mean, I understand the principle of underestimating.
Can I ask you
revenue.
why you're willing to raise real property, or rental of real property to $200 when we don't even know that we're gonna be able to open up?
I mean, based on 2019, we took in
You
$275.
can't.
I'm not
base
gonna
it
argue
on
with you over $100.
2019. I
Put it
know.
back to $100, I don't care. These numbers are just,
Fines and penalties of dog cases, $1,500?
of dog cases,
Yeah,
that's fines and forfeitures of
well,
bail.
you've got dog cases here. I apologize, it's the next line up, I apologize.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I'm just basing that on what we've gotten in the past.
Unclassified revenues, you decrease it down to nothing.
I'm sorry, where are we looking?
A 2770,
We went from $25 to nothing on that.
yeah.
I mean, you had $25, I just left it at zero, so.
The state aid youth program, 875 is a stretch. I can't see raising it to 900.
I mean, how do we know we're not getting anything? We've been
Well,
told.
we're not getting anything this year, and we haven't met the criteria, so we're not gonna get anything next year based on the information I've received.
Okay, well, if you have good information on that, then zero it out. I'm not gonna argue with you on that.
And I think right now, looking at, 2% increase for people is not, I don't think, financially very smart at this point in time.
I don't think it's unreasonable at all. I mean, I'm not proposing a raise for the board or the supervisor, I'm just.
And the director of finance, you're going to zero that out, that's a stipend that these director of finance is
That's
entitled
zeroed
to.
it out.
Did you zero out the other stipend in town also?
No.
Why not?
Because they got that last year.
And this is a stipend that has been available to
Yep.
the chief financial
I
officer.
get that.
Going back in history.
Yep.
It was last year. This year it wasn't.
I increased medical insurance $1,000 based on what's the projection, based on what's going on this year because it's going up.
We had already increased it.
I know you did, but based on what it is so far this year, 37,000 wouldn't cover it.
It wouldn't cover it.
You know, if you do the math based on what we've expended so far this year, 9 months into it, we come up short.
And you're reducing the refuge and garbage to .4 by $2,000, based on what?
Which line are we on? I'm
A
sorry.
8160.4.
Well, in 2019, it only cost us $18,865, and I would have to look up what it is so far
The
this
rates
year.
have gone up and are going up.
Okay, so we can take a look at that number again, but I'm not sure if I had that. Let's see if I have it here.
Social Security you can't reduce. Workers' comp, I don't recommend reducing.
That's a hard number from the county.
Mhm.
If you add the workers' comp under general fund and the highway, that number is directly from the county. And that's not gonna change. That's what it is for next year.
I'll verify that again tomorrow because we got our figures from them too. Sale of surplus scrap on highway, we reduced that down to 0, based on what?
Well, in 2019, we got $17. I mean, that's not something we're guaranteed every year.
I can guarantee you that they're well over that this year, and they most likely will be over that again next year. Highway .1, general repairs, what is that increase based on?
That number was given to me, and I'm not sure what it is based on.
I don't know who gave it to you, but the, 278,000. The 278,648 came from Pat.
Well, some of these numbers in the highway were given to me, and I can't honestly attest to the basis of all of them.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, the numbers that you see on the 2021 proposed preliminary budget from me were from Pat, okay? And he has a reason for these figures to be these figures. And why are you reducing the equipment .2 from 77,213 to 50,000?
Got an answer for that?
What's that?
Machinery, equipment.
It's $77,213, Pat, and that's the information you gave us. According to Randy, I guess you're reducing it?
I don't believe I reduced it.
That's,
I think I left that same in my budget request.
Yes, you did.
And my, as far as the payroll, I've had nothing to go on because they haven't passed the union
You
contract.
have, there's no discussing the payroll aspect of it.
Well, I'm talking the next line up, you guys just talked about that. I had to assume that there's gonna be some sort of raise, so I just assumed the 2% pay raise, that's why that number is where it is.
And I'm here to
But it's just a, I mean, that's. just
There's
a-
no discussing that it's not been ratified and we're not discussing it
Are you
tonight.
serious? We're not, we're at a budget meeting, we're not gonna discuss after 6 months of negotiations where the guys stand?
No, we're not, because it's not been, the board
I
hasn't come to
thought
an
it was
agreement.
voted on and approved.
No, it was never voted on and approved.
Really?
It's been voted on, but
It's
not
been
approved.
voted on several times.
No,
Yeah, okay, once, say.
it's never been approved,
It's never been voted on once or twice?
once, and it's never been
Okay,
approved.
not twice, you sure? Tell me the truth.
We have met,
It's been voted on twice. It's been voted on twice by now. And I could, you're not
I don't know
telling
where
me.
you're getting your information from.
You're
It's
not
never been
telling me the
approved.
truth.
It's
Tell me
never
the
been
truth and
approved.
I'll be happy with it.
okay.
It's never been approved.
It's, no, I didn't ask that. I said, how many times has it been voted?
We have met twice, I do believe.
We've
We voted once.
discussed it twice. I don't think
Okay.
we voted at all.
I think
Yeah,
we
you
voted
did
when
vote on
we
it
issued
once.
We did
the
vote on
vote.
At least
three
once.
And it's never been
negotiations.
voted on twice.
We've had 3 negotiations, your vote's a yes. How
You
many other
can't-
people have
You can't tell me
voted
what my
yes?
vote is.
Your vote's a yes, because when you agree what we've discussed, unwilling to bring another individual into the discussion, now when you bring it to the board, your vote's a yes. So if there are 2 other board members that voted a yes, that's considered a pass.
Dave,
J-
Dave?
You're wrong.
Dave,
No, don't tell me
Listen to
that.
me, I agreed to bring the information to the board, and that is
We
exactly what I did.
negotiated up and down, which your vote is a yes.
You can't tell
When
me
you
what my
bring
vote
it to a
is.
board,
No,
now you have 4 other members to break the odds. So that's 3 people, or 2 people, or whatever, to break the odds. Your vote's considered a yes.
no, David, it's not.
Okay,
I was
whatever.
in agreement to bring the information to the board.
Okay,
And that
can
is
I
exactly
just,
what I
before I
did.
leave, can I ask what you brought to the board?
No, we're not discussing that this evening.
Okay, this is a budget meeting, and
I am
I'm
not
highly
bringing-
concerned.
I am not bringing something that was discussed in
Okay, so
executive
next
session
Thursday
to the
is
public.
next, when's the next board meeting?
Thursday.
Is that gonna be brought up then? Yes or no?
I can't answer that.
Why not?
We will most likely bring it up. at
Not,
some
not
point.
most likely, I mean,
Dave,
you're
I
the
am not
supervisor,
discussing that.
are we gonna bring it up or not? I don't give a fuck about that thing.
I know you don't.
Okay,
You
are we
need to.
gonna bring it up? I've got guys that are working their ass off. You agree we're underpaid, and you're
Oh,
playing a
I do.
game with us.
I
You're
have
playing
said
a
that.
game with us.
Dave,
There's
the
the-
discussion's over, thank you.
The funds are there, and you're making us a fool, okay?
Thank you,
Okay, well, you're welcome, and thank you.
you're
Don't
welcome.
expect to survive anymore, okay? You,
Thank you,
I'm done, I made my
that's
point,
fine, thank you,
and I proved
Thank
my
you.
point.
thank you. All right, moving on, we were discussing, on the point ones, we can't do anything with point ones, Randy, because there's been no decisions reached.
We can budget for them, we don't have to.
It was budgeted already in the proposed budget by Pat.
We can change it.
Sure, we can change everything, but I'm gonna tell you, I honestly don't think that we're being physically responsible by increasing all of the expenditures. And by,
This budget's reduced from what you're proposing.
Yes.
You're telling me I'm fiscally irresponsible when I'm
The
proposing a
point
reduction,
one-
and at the time I'm proposing I'm reducing the amount of tax revenue to be raised. And at the same time I'm doing it, I'm proposing giving the majority of general fund employees a 2% pay raise, and then whatever is negotiated with the union for them to get a pay raise. And at the same time, we're reducing the tax rate. And you're
Right.
telling me I'm fiscally irresponsible.
yes, because you're giving people raises that we can't afford at this point in time.
Well, I prefer to put raises and money in
And let
people's
me just
pockets.
say something right now. This is a workshop. It is for the public to sit and listen and not to participate in. Thank you.
So you didn't answer Randy.
I cut him off, and I apologize for that, and I will not answer him.
Well, I mean, we don't have to go through this. What I would ask you to do is to take this and just look at it and review it and consider it. And look at the summary page, the last page, because that page, it shows what the tax rate would be if we just implement this budget as it is with no excess, with no fund balance applied. And then the second summary is if we apply the fund balance to cover the entire excess levy. And I suspect that we can probably fall someplace in between there, depending on how much fund balance we actually have, which we have to get that number. I don't know how do we
All you
respond?
have to do is
Excuse me.
ask for it.
Excuse me, I've asked multiple times this year, and I've never been given that number.
Ask again
So
and
there's
you'll
a-
receive.
We need to know the fund balance from 2019.
I can't give you that.
Well, that is our fund balance from 2019. We need to know how much money was left over. And we also need to have some projection of what our fund balance will be this year. So those two numbers would allow us to budget responsibly. Right now, we're just throwing darts at a dartboard.
No, we're not throwing darts at a dartboard. What we're doing is we're looking at a fiscally responsible preliminary budget for 2021 with an anticipated increase of 2.45% across the board to the public. That is a very reasonable, and may I add, I think in the future, because of the situation that the town is in, you might want to contemplate doing a nominal increase on a yearly basis instead of trying to keep it flat. That way, we might be able to afford vehicles for our highway department.
That's something I agree with you on.
You know, so
Thank you.
I think that this is
But
more.
going up
than reasonable.
16 to 70% last year and then going up 2.5% on top of it again this year in the face of a pandemic,
You never lose your previous tax base, all right? We have reduced it by $98,249, and in the method in which I'm doing it, that is acceptable.
you've reduced it how?
$98,249 once,
If you
not
reduce-
twice, but once.
If you reduced it, then how can we have a tax rate increase? How come we're raising more in tax revenue than we did last year?
Because we're in what is called a revenue hole. We don't have,
That's just BS.
no, it's not, Randy. No, it is not.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
but that is.
Revenue hole is not something that is not uncommon in a very small town, where you don't have businesses supporting it.
I understand that, but, okay, I'm not gonna sit here and argue with you all the way with that.
I'm not gonna.
We should not be having a tax increase this year. Warren County cut their county budget. Other towns are cutting their budgets.
Yeah, Warren County's gonna have, I think, a 4.4% increase
In what?
in taxes.
No, that I can prove you wrong on, because the budget was just put out, and it was in the paper. And I know because I have it here.
Just like the 2% less.
Taxes would decrease for many Warren County residents. Total spending is decreasing by $2.2 million. That's Warren County.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I was.
And if you want to talk about Thurman specifically, Thurman's share of the Warren County budget is going from $4.17.4 down to $4.11.3.
Mhm.
So Warren County is reducing in the face of this. They're not on an austerity budget, but
No.
they are cutting significantly. They've streamlined a lot of stuff and they're cutting in the face of the pandemic. We're going up.
Their employees are also not getting, raises, one, and two, they have,
I'm giving raises and the pay went down and you're,
this really isn't
Yeah,
amusing. Really,
Why?
I said, this really isn't amusing. It's very serious.
it's ridiculous. You're faulting me for giving people pay raises and
What?
yet you're raising people's taxes when we don't need to.
2.45% is a small sum.
Okay. You have what I proposed for a budget,
Thank you.
so consider it. And I suppose at some point, either we have to vote to make modifications, or you've already passed the preliminary budget, and it's gonna become the budget if we don't do anything.
That is true.
We have until November 20th.
It has to be filed on the 20th, so we have to have a decision by the 19th.
Yep.
So, then,
You take it home, look at it, and vote on it some other night.
Vote on it Thursday night.
we certainly could. So Doug, do you have anything you'd like to say in regards to
No.
anything? Ed, do you have anything you'd like to say in regards to anything? No?
Read this over.
I would like to just see it.
I'm sorry.
If you have questions, ask me. I don't know if I have all the answers. I mean, sure.
Do you have anything you'd like to say, Joe?
Sure.
And by all means, check and make sure I didn't leave something out or that something's incorrect. It could be, I rushed to get this done. So I want you guys to check it, go through it with fine tooth comb and make sure that I didn't blow some calculation or something someplace.
I would like the idea, the time to look at this. We screwed them last year, the town and ourselves.
Well, that's
Not
not do a tax cap override last year.
So consequently,
No,
I don't wanna go ahead and do that again this year.
that was only because we couldn't use the money. What she she's talking about is a 16 to 17% tax increase in 1 year.
That's because you didn't do a tax cap override.
It's
and when
still
people
16 to
sat down
17%.
We
talk
begged and
about
begged and
it,
begged, and we couldn't get it, and you approved it too. You didn't vote
I
for
was
it.
not
You didn't vote, you didn't vote for it, but you sat right in that corner there and said, yes, I agree.
that there should be a tax cap override.
No,
Oh, yes.
No.
Whether, let's be clear, whether the tax cap override was passed or not, was still a 16 to 17% increase in 1 year.
1 year.
The only difference was whether or not you could use that money this year or not. That's the only difference that made. It was still a 16 to 17% increase in 1 year.
And it was, the budget this year was reduced once by the
It's
$98,249.
not reduced when the tax rate's going up. You can keep saying that until you hold in the face. The budget's
Do the
not
math,
reduced.
Randy, and you'll see that it's been done. Do you have anything else you'd like to say this evening? Anybody over there? No? I want to thank everybody for coming out. Thank you so much. Our next meeting is going to be Thursday evening. It's the regular town board meeting. It will be starting at 6:30 PM here. Thank you. Thursday, the 12th of November,